Page 592, we're going to look at some answers to the even problems here. Number 6, if you graphed those points, it would kind of look like an upside down U, which makes it quadratic. Or you can go through the steps like we talked about and look at their second differences. Number 8, they're kind of skipping around with these points. They're not just going from one point to the next, but if you graphed the points on number 8, it's kind of going down this direction, and it's not in a straight line. That would be exponential. Number 10, they are actually just going from one to the next here, but well, no, they're not. They start out going just to the next number, but then they start skipping around. So anyway, if you graph number 10, it's going to kind of look like this. So that would be exponential as well. Number 12, this one's written a little nicer, so we can kind of look at this just to make sure you guys understand this. They are just going by ones on their x's, so this goes up by 1.5, this goes up by 4.5, this goes up by 7.5, and then this goes up by 10.5. And now if you look at these, that goes up by 3, goes up by 3, goes up by 3. So the second differences are all the same, which makes that quadratic for number 12. And number 14, there's more and more decimals every time, but actually if you take the 1 and divide by the 1 in front of it, you should keep getting 1 2/10. And so that would be exponential for number 14. Number 28, they have a graph showing numbers of visitors to a museum over X days. Which function models the number of visitors? So if you look at this, one thing about it is that these points are in a straight line, so I'm looking for a linear equation. B is exponential, so I can eliminate that. C is quadratic, so I can eliminate that. So it's going to be either A or C. And both of those have the same slope as each other, negative 100. So they both have negative slope, which is good. One has a y-intercept of 900, one has a y-intercept of 800. Well, if you look at this graph, we're already at 800 at day 1. So if we continue to go back further, that's going to take us to 900. So it is going to be choice A. And if you weren't sure, if you got it narrowed down to A or C, but you weren't able to follow the logic for the y-intercept part, or if you didn't think about that, you could just pick 2 points on the line. Let's say we've got 1-800, calling a telephone number here, and 3-600. And so we can find the slope, since we know it's a straight line. Keep the same order for the x's that you did for the y's. And that would be negative 100 for the slope. And then we could put that into our equation. Again, technically we can substitute in for the slope and put in a number for x and y. Realistically, if we're doing this, you can just do an adjustment of saying, okay, if I put in a 1 for x, what would that give me? Negative 100 times 1, that would be negative 100. So I'm at negative 100. I need to be at 800. So to get from negative 100 to 800, we'd have to add 900. Okay, and again, once more, if you didn't follow that part, here's your other option. Slope is negative 100. Put in whichever point that you like that's on the graph. So I'm going to do 1, 800. And then we can just solve this for the y-intercept. So to get rid of a negative 100, you have to add 100 on both sides. And that would be 900, and then that gets us to that same equation. And finally, if we look at number 30, which line passes through this point and is parallel to the line graphed at the right? So what we have to remember about parallel lines is that their slopes are the same. Just quickly glancing at this line, I know it has a positive slope. So automatically choice D is eliminated. That has a slope of negative 5. If you look at the others, they all have a slope of 2. So it must be that our slope is 2, so I'm not even going to bother working through that part. Our slope has to be 2. It has to go through the point 13. So let's just substitute in 1 and 3. And we would get a y-intercept of 1 and y-intercept of 1, so 2x plus 1, which would be choice A. And kind of if you think about this, I mean, if you actually graphed this, not that we're going to write in our math book here, but if you graph the point 13 and you try and draw something parallel to that, maybe something like that. I'm off a little bit here, but okay, just trying to even draw a parallel line to it. It looks like our y-intercept's 1. And again, the slope is no problem. Changing y over changing x, so up 2 and over 1. So our slope is 2 over 1, or 2. So hopefully that helps you with the even problems on lesson 9.7. Nobody asked about any odds, so I'm going to assume that you guys were okay with those. Hope you had a good day, and we'll talk to you later.